I'm going to use this as um, an example of why there's so many different modalities to choose from, and how it's kind of more important a lot of times for people to figure out what works for this, what work best for them, and what modality fits them and more suitable for them, because that's going to be how you get the results that's best for you. And so when I say I don't lift weights, um, I'm not, I don't have a dogma about weightlifting versus calisthenics, right? Um, I don't have a dogma about like calisthenics being better than weightlifting or weightlifting being better than calisthenics. I'm really kind of given a framework of kind of finding myself, right? Kind of finding my purpose in kind of wrestling with why I never got to a certain place in my training when I did do weightlifting. Because obviously, I have a long training history, right? I've been working out since I was about 18, 19, maybe 17. And I started off working out by doing um, Tybo tapes and P90X and Insanity. I completed all of those programs. I did 100% did the whole entire Insanity program. So my first initial introduction to fitness was that genre of fitness. The tapes and stuff, right? And then I started to venture off into weightlifting for a while, right? And when I ventured off into weightlifting, it was more like general fitness and bodybuilding. But even when I was doing that, I still was doing these hyper type of uh, workouts mixed in between of like hit cardio, which this at this time there wasn't that wasn't even the name that they called it. I don't know what they called it. Um, but I would do weightlifting. But when I would do weightlifting, I never really had like a training goal, right? Like it was just like I want to look good and be in shape, and so I typically just lifted weights like randomly, you know. It was no. I would do upper body and lower body. I had a structure in that sense, but there was no goals like, yo, I want to bench this amount, or I want to get this amount of reps, or no, it was like the weights was just like a means to stimulate the muscle. Like that's it. And that's kind of how my training stayed. But I noticed that I never kind of liked it, and I never really got too lost into it, and I never really stayed as consistent. I did it, you know what I'm saying, but I would take breaks. You know what I'm saying? I would take a lot of breaks. But then eventually I started to add like, okay, this is gonna be like and by this time I didn't know what calisthenics was. So I would call it like a body weight day, where a day where I wasn't using weights. So I would start doing like an upper body day where like I'm using weights, and then an upper body day where I wasn't using weights. A lower body day where I was using weights, and a lower body day where I wasn't using weights. And what I noticed quite rapidly, especially on the lower body day, was that I enjoyed, even though I was very whack, but I enjoyed the body weight days a significant amount more. Like it just, I just looked forward to those days. I did more those days, and I felt better the next day. But whatever. So I would do that, and then eventually, like I had like this big blowout where like I just didn't train for like a long time, and then I got fat, real fat. Um, and so by this time, I was leaving a career. I was a community outreach director, mentoring boys, doing all this stuff, salary job. And I decided to uproot my family and move them to a different city and start over fresh. And I lived off my 401k, um, right, to pay our rent and all that other stuff. Until, whatever, I got on my feet. And so obviously I sold all of my equipment, and now I don't have nothing. And so I go into like this state of deep depression, right? Because I'm like huge, I'm fat, and I'm eating and I'm like drinking. And my life is just shit for a little while. And then I discovered these guys on YouTube that's doing body weight exercises. Apparently, this is called calisthenics. And so I get on there and I start watching these dudes, and I'm like blown away. I'm like, yo, this is hot right here. This is fire. I fuck with this. This is dope. And so I decide to go to the Goodwill and I buy me a couple outfits, man, and I go out, I start doing calisthenics. And I fell in love with this style of training. And immediately I started to have all of those things that I never could get with weightlifting. Like when people, like, when you hear weightlifters, it's like, yo, man, my goal is to get to like 405, 425. Like I never got to that point of passion, with training, because I really didn't care about how much I lifted. I didn't even care about the tension of what I lifted. It was just an ends to a means. That's it. It just was something it was literally something I was using. I had no connection to it whatsoever. I was unmoved. And then I discovered calisthenics, where I could be intuitive and I can flow and I could put my own spin to it and put my personality into it. And then it just became like this deep, intricate part of my life. And I say all that to say this. There's 1,000 modalities. You could play basketball, you could play football, you could play soccer, you could play hockey. You can do bodybuilding, you can do calisthenics, you can do general fitness, you can do CrossFit, right? You can do jiu-jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai, karate. There's various modalities. And there's no sense of arguing about whose modality is best, because everyone has its pros and cons. Everyone has its goals and things that is not. Like calisthenics goal is not to have big legs. That's actually detrimental to the performance, right? Because I was online and everybody's talking about, oh, calisthenics guys can't build big legs. So what I did is I started to do body weight exercises where I would do these jump squats and these pulse squats, and then I would sprint. And like I made my legs like super big without weights. And I did that to prove a point to people. It ended up fucking my skills up, right? Because now I have these big legs that's chafing in between trying to prove a point to trolls online, because they're doing this thing where it's like, um it's a projection thing that people do. Well, you do this, but you can't do that. You do this, but you can't do that. Oh, you good at this, but you suck at this. And I realized, like, wow, I've kind of made it hard to flip now, because I've made it's really hard to hold the front lever with these big ass legs. Like, it's not impossible, but it sure would be a lot easier with my legs being less bulky. And so, I say all that to say this: like, you have to find what works for you, and tell everybody else to get a life. Like, do what fits your personality. Do what works for you, and that could be various different things. But for me, I don't lift weights because doing body weight makes me feel good, and I can enjoy my life, and I can be free, and I've learned to be able to build my body the way I like to build it, anywhere at any time, and I enjoy that freedom, that lack of restriction. And I've saved so much more money, because back when I used to lift weights, man, I would be buying so much stuff. I would be buying machines and just all of this stuff, and I would be obsessed with just looking and searching and trying to, and didn't even care about the numbers or anything. But it wasn't for me. But for some of my homies, some of my guys, they love to hit that iron, man. They love to hit that iron. That iron is a safe haven for them. That iron is a safe place for them. That iron gives them a home, right? Something to look forward to, right? And that's what this is about. That's what training's about. Finding your thing. Finding the thing that makes your heart beat. That's what this is about, man. This is not about competition. This is not about who's better, who's not better, who's powerlifting's better than bodybuilding, and bodybuilding's better than calisthenics, or calisthenics is better than CrossFit. Like, this is not what this is about. This is about you doing the work to find what fits and suits your trajectory in life and what you want to accomplish. That's what this is about. In calisthenics, body weight movement, being a body mover, is what fits me and what's worked for me. And that worked for everybody, but it worked for me. Salute.